All right, guys. So Bernie Sanders issued a super dire warning about the big, beautiful bill. And every word of this is absolutely spot on. By the way, I mean, he's pulling numbers these days on YouTube. First of all, he's got 1.1 million subscribers. I don't know any other politicians that have, those sorts of numbers. And also got 285,000 views in 13 hours. I mean, people are tuning in. People are plugged in. They are ready to fight back against this Trump regime. And, it's Bernie who's providing us with the ammunition, Bernie who's providing us with the facts of what's happening. And this is just this is a great takedown. Let's watch.
Let me be very clear. Trump's so-called big, beautiful bill, now on the floor of the Senate, is one of the most dangerous pieces of legislation ever brought forth in the modern history of our country. It is a gift to the billionaire class while causing massive pain for working families. Actually, I'm wrong. I shouldn't use the word gift because the billionaires paid for it. This bill is an absolute reflection of a corrupt campaign finance system. The billionaires invest hundreds of millions of dollars in candidates and in elections, and in this bill, this piece of legislation, their investment is paying off. So, what are they getting? Well, the top 1% is receiving $975 billion in tax breaks. Further, and this is really quite unbelievable, the wealthiest 0.2% receive a $211 billion estate tax break. $211 billion for the top 0.2%. In that provision, 99.8% of Americans get zero. Further, large corporations in this bill get a $918 billion tax break. That is what the 1% and the wealthy campaign contributors get. So here's what you get, assuming you're not a billionaire. This bill throws over 16 million people off of the health insurance they have by slashing Medicaid and the Affordable Care Act by over $1.1 trillion. So
I forgot that part. So I knew that they cut Medicaid. That's the thing about this bill. The more you read about it, the more you find new horror shows in there. So I knew they destroyed Medicaid. I did not remember that they actually destroyed the Affordable Care Act as well. So we're talking about a mass unemployment crisis, the likes of which we've never even seen, way above and beyond even pre-Obamacare U.S. healthcare system stuff.
$1 trillion in tax breaks for the 1%, $1 trillion in cuts in Medicaid and the Affordable Care Act. Further, it forces millions of Medicaid recipients to pay a $35 copayment every time they visit a doctor. So what is the impact of all this? What happens when you throw 16 million people off healthcare, you impose a $35 copayment? Well, what the Yale School of Public Health and the University of Pennsylvania estimate is that if this reconciliation bill is enacted, and it's unbelievable for me to say this, but this is what they are telling us. This is what they have studied. If this bill goes through and all these healthcare cuts take place, over 50,000 Americans will die unnecessarily each and every year.
That needs to be discussed for what it is. The Republicans are murdering 50,000 Americans by ripping away their healthcare. They are murdering 50,000 Americans.
50,000 Americans. In other words, this bill is a horrific death sentence for low income and working class Americans. Further, if this legislation is enacted, rural hospitals all over the country that are already struggling would be forced to shut down. It would also make massive cuts to community health centers and nursing homes. In other words, this legislation is the most significant attack on the healthcare needs of the American people in the modern history of our country. So, our healthcare system is broken, it's dysfunctional, and they make it even worse. And that's not all.
By the way, I looked it up because I did a story on this a month ago. 742 rural hospitals will shut down as a result of this. I mean, Jesus Christ, bro.
Hungry kids at a time when we have the highest rate of childhood poverty of nearly any major nation on earth. This bill will also make it much harder for working class kids to receive the higher education they need by cutting education by some $350 billion. At a time when the planet is struggling with climate change, heat waves now all over the world, this bill decimates investment in energy efficiency and sustainable energies like wind and solar. If you are concerned about how the United States keeps getting into never-ending wars, this bill makes a bad situation even worse by handing out another $150 billion to the Pentagon, a 15% increase.
I forgot about that part too. Remember when they used to pretend, MAGA did, like they were going to cut the Pentagon, and now they've done multiple increases to the Pentagon? over $1 trillion military budget now.
Or in an already bloated Pentagon budget. Now, I want to applaud all of the Democrats, every single one of them, who strongly oppose this bill. And I want to congratulate two Republicans, Senators Paul and Senator Tillis, for voting with the Democrats in opposition to proceeding on this bill. But here is something really interesting and quite telling about where the Republican Party is today. When Senator Tillis of North Carolina indicated that he would vote against the bill, he was lambasted on social media by Trump, and he was threatened with a primary. He actually did not do what Trump wanted him to do. Is there anything in this world that is worse than that? Today, Senator Tillis announced that he would not seek re-election. So it is pretty clear to me, and I would hope to every American, that the Republican Party of today does not tolerate any independent thought. One might have believed that members of Congress were elected to represent their constituents, to do what they thought right for their constituents. But that's not what it is in the Republican Party right now. The sole function of Republican members of Congress is just to tell Donald Trump how brilliant he is, how infallible he is, how great he is, put up a statue of him on Mount Rushmore, oh my God. And if any Republican, like Senator Tillis, suggests otherwise, they will be politically destroyed. This is pathetic, and it has all of the hallmarks of the kind of authoritarian society that Trump wants to take us into. Dissent is simply not tolerated anymore within Republican ranks. I don't have to tell anybody that this is an extremely difficult moment in American history. Trump and the oligarchs have unlimited wealth. They have a great deal of power, and they want more. But there is something that we have. And we saw that just last week in the recent mayoral primary in New York City. So what you had is one candidate supported by all of the big money interest, all of the oligarchs, but you had the other candidate who was supported by ordinary people. And guess who won? The guy, Mr. Mamdani, who was supported by rank and file New Yorkers, won the election. So I think what we can learn from that is that if we stand together and not let Trump and his friends divide us up based on our religion or where we were born or our sexual orientation or the color of our skin, if we stand together, we can beat the oligarchs. And let me tell you, in this moment in history, that is exactly what we've got to do.
One of the things that scares me about this bill, though, is that, so Trump, as you all know, just federalized the California National Guard and deployed them in Los Angeles. He sent the Marines into Los Angeles as well. And then right after that, we had an illegal and offensive war that was launched against Iran, as you all saw, bombing their nuclear sites, greenlighting Netanyahu to run wild in the region and bomb 4 different countries. And so with how crazy all that stuff is, it almost like softens the public consciousness on an issue like this bill. Because, you know, if you don't follow this stuff closely, you think, okay, they're trying to pass some fucking piece of legislation. Who cares, right? But the reality is, this is just as important as all those other things, because this is, without a doubt, the systematic dismantling of everything good and decent about this country. When you destroy Medicaid, healthcare for low-income and disabled people, when you destroy Obamacare, when you raise taxes on the bottom 90% and cut it for the top 1% right in front of everybody's eyes, rank class warfare right in front of your face, that you have to understand this is societal suicide if this thing gets through. And so it's a shame because I feel like all the warnings are falling on deaf ears because the stakes have been so high and the drama's been so high with all the other horror shows that this regime has inflicted on us. But as I said, this is the systematic destruction of everything decent about this country, everything about our government that actually works. Just like what we saw with Doge, right? Just like what we saw with Doge, where they cut pediatric cancer research and Meals on Wheels and the CFPB and FEMA and fired 250,000 workers and cut 50% of the Social Security officers. That was the systematic destruction of the administrative state and the regulatory state. Now they're going for what remains of the social safety net to make us just a total dog-eat-dog country where might makes right, power is all that matters, corruption rules the day. That's what they're moving us towards. An actual fascist oligarchy, not just behind the scenes, but also in front of the scenes. That's what we're moving towards. And so I hope everybody wakes up. I hope everybody makes phone calls to their congresspeople, to their senators. The Democrats held the line on this, which was phenomenal. But, man, those Republicans, Murkowski needs to be shamed to the high fucking heavens, bro. Hawley needs to be shamed to the high fucking heavens. All these Republicans, these Johnny-come-lately Republicans who flipped after a minimal amount of pressure from the White House, they are enemies of this country. There's no doubt about it. All right, guys, that's the show. I love you all very much. You know the drill. Everybody, please subscribe to the channel. That helps out big time and costs you nothing. Thank you to all your support on Patreon. A lot of you guys give $2 a month, $5 a month. That goes a long way. Remember, this is real independent media, real grassroots media. I'm very proud of what we built here. You guys made that possible. Also, sign up for Crystal Kyle and Friends on Substack below. And make sure you go subscribe to Corrin's World, the YouTube channel, because we post Kyle and Corrin's there every week. Although this might be the first week we actually missed because I don't have any internet here. I'm recording on my data. So if our internet doesn't come back, we can't do a Kyle and Corrin, but I hope we can. We'll see if we can. But I'll try to keep delivering you guys some shows while I'm here. I'm on vacation, but it's never much of a vacation when we live in a hellscape. All right, I'll see you guys later. Hey y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop. And watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.